Hello, hello. Can we see enough of my table? Let's try moving that away a little. That's better. That's the perfect optimum position. You would have thought after this many sew-alongs I would have marked a spot on the floor for the tripod, but no. How are we all? I hope you're all well and have had a good week since I last saw you. Who have we got? Say hi, everyone. Let's see who we've got joining us today. Hi, Fiona. Hi, Jackie. Seeing you all filter in there and join. I am feeling very yellow today. I'm going big and bold, guys, with my Dorothy jacket. I'm making a mustard one. Hi, Teresa. Oh, thank you for joining and getting up so early. Hello. We've got our usual international audience, it seems. Rosie, I should add, will be about 5 minutes late joining because she is doing she's filming some Stitch School stuff for you with our wonderful teacher, Julie. So she's going to be a little bit late, but she promises she'll be here in about 5 minutes. But anyway, I'll let you all say hi to each other. I have had a nice few days. I had a few days off, so I got to have lots of well, not lots of lions. I had a couple of lions because I had a couple of days off at the end of last week, and then I had Jazzy this weekend. And we are in the fun realms, Jazzy and I, of trying to go through the night without a nappy on. So basically my washing machine is just on constantly at the moment. But we had a dry night last night, so I'm feeling better. But still, I think the cumulativeness of 3 nights of not it being like that, I am looking very tired, but never mind. I also, guys, do you remember I said I was going to cut my fringe? I did. I first did it, I couldn't, the scissors hadn't arrived and I was being impatient, it was so bad, so I cut it with these scissors. And it's a little bit uneven, but then the hairdresser's scissors arrived and I just basically evened it out with these ones that thin. It's not a great job, but I reckon it will just like sort me out a little until like I can go to a hairdresser's in April. And then I'll have to be like, I bet hairdressers are going to be like, what? You know, so many people could be turning up with really weird haircuts that they've kind of had to try and fudge and do themselves. And they'll be like, how am I meant to make this look good? You've ruined your hair. Anyway, I'm not wearing the Dorothy jacket, guys. As you can see, I have got a Freya blouse on though with my cardigan. And I have got the Dorothy jacket here. So what I thought we would do today is I was looking at the instructions and I was sort of thinking, I think it'd be nice to do all the prep and the top stitching bits that we can do of the pocket flaps, the pockets and the epaulets. So obviously, I think I've said this before in sew-alongs and, you know, relevant to sew-alongs, classes, whatever. Sometimes the order that we teach and do things in classes is different from what the instructions say. Sometimes what you do personally at home is different from what the instructions say. The instructions are merely a kind of logical guide of ordering them, but you can mix it up. And essentially you can do all your pockets and your pocket flaps and your epaulets. Then you can just do all of that prep together. And then you can go back and do kind of joining the facing and things. So it's really kind of, to mix it up. But I thought, let's do those bits together today. That's quite a nice thing to fit in the time that we've got, because otherwise I was sort of reading through the instructions and it just felt a little bit too bitty. And I'd be like, oh, we'll do a bit of that and a bit of that. And it just, yeah. So I thought this would be more useful. So I have been using, guys, I'm being very brave and bold. I am going to be slightly yellower than I thought, but actually it's a mustard colour, isn't it? And I'm like in a very mustardy area of my house, so it looks like I have a big thing for yellow. And this is quite a tricky colour to wear on me, but I do love it. And I feel like, well, with a scarf and other colours, obviously black jumper or a white t-shirt or something, as well as some red lips, I know I can wear this colour. So I thought, you know, I've got the sensible dark brown one and I really, really want to, yeah, be bold. Oh, Rosie's made it. Hey, Rosie. Celia, thank you. I saw that popped up there. Thanks for the cake message. yeah, I put up a little thing on Instagram on Lisa Comfort Home yesterday saying I'm starting to research cakes for Jasmine's birthday at the start of May. I'm yet to have done a good cake for her because she's not really been at the age where she's sort of, you know, would have appreciated it. This is the year though, and I am not a baker. Well, I'm a baker, I can bake, but I'm not an icer. So yeah, any tips, most welcome. Right, okay, so Rosie, just so you know what we're doing, we are doing, we're going to focus on all of the kind of the pocket flaps and the pockets, epaulets, and do all of our kind of top stitching bits and prep for those. And the fabric, if you could pop a link to it, that would be amazing. It is up online now. So let's start with the pocket. I should also say I am going rogue, guys, and I am not doing interfacing because this has got a nice stability to it. I want to have a super soft jacket, so I'm not going to do interfacing on my pieces. So if you see them and you're like, oh, she's not interfaced, sound like Jasmine now, putting an on past tense of every verb. I've done that intentionally. I want to keep it soft. So what we need to do is actually pressing first. I'm going to start with the pocket pieces and we're going to prep those by hemming the top of them. I'm going to get the iron up and we'll do the ironing. So Rosie, I was telling everyone that you have been working this morning on filming with Julie some wonderful stuff for Stitch School. You're going to give us a little bit of a teaser on what it was? I promise I won't blurt anything out more than what you say. Hi Lorianne. So on the top of the pocket we are going to fold over the first turning, which will be 1 centimetre, and that is going to the wrong side. You've got a notch at the top of the pocket, so you can kind of mark that. And then the next turning is 2 centimetres. Okay. And then let's do the other one. And then turn that over. Ooh, a future pattern hack. Exciting. I have to say, it's been wonderful being able to have some more of the teachers film again on Stitch School. There's been a lot of me coming up on Stitch School, guys, and you'll be relieved to know we've now got lots of other people doing it as well. Becca has been filming. We had Julie today, and next week, I think Layla. So lots of expertise coming your way on Stitch School. Okay, so we have pressed over the tops of the pocket. I used to have a textile teacher that used to say pocket. I always thought, like, she wasn't posh, but she said it in a very posh way. Okay, so we've pressed that over, so you'll have to forgive me, I am going to have to keep checking on the instructions. Okay, so we now need to do some zigzagging or overlocking. I'm actually going to zigzag around the pocket edges because I do not want, I don't have any overlocking thread that's the right colour, which is really annoying. I've basically got black or white, and I just think that would look not good. So I'm going to have to try and find some, but I don't think I'll need that before whilst I'm doing this sew along. So I thought, oh, just for the pocket bit, that's sitting inside. I can just zigzag stitch that. We are unfolding everything. Yes. Okay, so we're just unfolding the top there. Oh, we're still on that mode, and zigzagging across. Around the pockets. So what I'm hoping that we're going to be able to do, guys, is some top stitching together, and I'm also going to try and do it with my edge stitching foot. So I've got top stitching thread and I've got some larger needles. I'm actually using a size 14 needle at the moment, but I've got one that's bigger, like a bigger jean needle. For the top stitching thread, because you need to have a bigger eye. The needle the eye of the needle needs to be bigger, basically, to take the top stitching thread. It's always a bit nerve-wracking doing top stitching with a top stitching thread, because some machines just don't like them. But hopefully my Benina will do me proud and we'll be okay. Okay, we've got one done. I'm going to whiz round the other one. Whizzy roundy. Obviously, a lot of people used to ask us a lot, like, is there anything wrong with just zigzagging and if you don't have an overlocker? And absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with just zigzagging. It is just, if you have got an overlocker, it will give it a more professional finish. It will look better and it will be quicker to do. And I also think it withstands washing a lot better. It's just a bit, but it's nothing, it will still, zigzagging will still do that. And certainly when you're zigzagging on quite a good weight of fabric like this, the zigzagging kind of looks a lot neater. So when I'm zigzagging and the needle goes over to the right, it's grazing off the edge of the fabric and binding those raw edges. Okay. Right. So we are done there. I believe we've got to do a little bit more pressing now. We got to the fold the top edge of the pocket over along the second fold, pin and stitch short. Okay, so we are now stitching in place, but we're not going to be top stitching this. I believe, just wait a second, I'm a bit confused. Let me just read this properly. Because I think we're going to have to top stitch. Obviously, we're going to have to top stitch this bit here. So I'm obviously misinterpreted what we are doing here. Maybe we are not. Well, I think, yeah, we can just jump that. I'm just going to jump that and we'll do that top stitching later. What I might do, I'm just going to pin those in place though whilst we're doing our pressing. Okay, so put those pins in there and we're going to press over the edges. So the edges, I believe, are 1.5 centimetres. I think that's what it was referring to, that little bit here, little bit of stitching to help with that, but I'm just going to skip past that and I'm just going to go on and press these edges over. So it's quite good that it's quite a sizable amount because it will hold the shape much better. Okay, so if you don't know what 1.5 centimetres looks like, it looks like I'm being rather kind of like, not very thorough here, but I feel like 1.5 centimetres and me are best mates. I see a lot, so I know what it is. But if you're not sure what that looks like, then do use a tape measure at this point. Okay. So I'm just going to tuck that in there. So I'm just going to open that out and tuck that in there because I don't want that causing extra bulk there. We'll have to trim that down maybe. Okay, and then I'm going to put a pin in that. And then flipping that over, tucking that in. Okay. He is prepped and ready. Let's do the other one. I'm going to do some top stitching. What I might do actually, guys, I think we'll save the top stitching. I'm just thinking for you, if I just go straight in and do the top stitch on this bit now, I'm going to then only have to change the needle back and everything again. So what we'll do is we'll stitch all of our little bits, all the bits that we don't need to use top stitching thread, and then I'll change it at the end, and we'll do it at the end of this session. Oh, facial. And then it's not too much stopping and starting and changing of the threads and stuff. Just pop that, unfold that back. Okay. Okay, there we go. That's those two done. Pop those to one side. We can now go on, so we've basically got the pocket flaps to do. And these are the pocket flaps here. So we've got these sort of fake pockets with the pocket flaps here. And then we've also got the pocket flaps that are rectangular that will go over the pocket that we've just made up. And we've also got the epaulets. So we've got lots of little bits to do. So we could do those bits. So this is in the section, so from point 10, when we're going to be joining them all together. So you've basically got your pocket flaps, and on the pocket flap with the point, so this one that I'm on, we're not going to be stitching it along the top straight edge. So we're not going to be going along there. So we're going to leave that one unpinned along that edge, and we're just going to do these bits. Okay, and then do the same on that one. It's going to be like a little production line. Okay, so and then right sides together, should have said that. On the little epaulets, we're basically going to stitch around all those, but not that edge there. So all of them will need an edge that's not obviously stitched around, so we can turn it through. And they all then will get along that unstitched edge. That's what's going to get stitched into a seam or folded back over and top stitched down. Okay. Who is sewing along the Dorothy jacket already with me, or is anybody already made theirs? Anyone else already made a Dorothy or got one cut out ready? So lots happen. Oh, well done, Fiona. Is that yes to you have made one already? What fabric did you make yours in? Best fabric for this is kind of, oh, I'm using like, it's like a cotton denim twill, kind of cotton canvas. But yeah, it needs to be medium weight. Denim is perfect, Fiona. That sounds great. Wait a second. I need to not look at what I'm like, just happily pinning away, pinning the whole thing. But yeah, cotton twill would be nice, or a heavy gabardine could work as well. Okay. So we're doing the rectangular ones. I really like this sort of idea of getting all these little bits done and out the way, and then they're all ready, and then you can just focus on the bulk of the jacket. And I have to say that it's actually quite a simple construction. There isn't very, like, if you take all these kind of details off that we're making up now, it's just a face jacket, It's, you know, just got 2 front pieces, 1 back piece, a simple collar. You know, it really isn't too technical a pattern. The skill will be in the top stitching and getting that to look good. And I think if you're new to top stitching, then using an edge stitch foot will really help you with that. Okay, so we've got everything here. I've got them all ready. Just want to check our seam allowance. Yep. Okay, so we'll begin sewing these with 1.5 centimetres seam allowance. So load up my little pile, and then pop it onto that. I'm going to use stitch length 3 throughout this. We do recommend that you use stitch length 3 for the top stitching, but I think it's good anyway to put them on. And all of the attaching of the eyelets and everything like that, we will do that afterwards. Okay. Not going to worry about this. Ooh, could you add a hood? I'm not sure. It's difficult to know whether the neckline is the right shape for a hood. You might, you just need to change the shape if it's not. If you've got something with a hood already, just say, guys, and just at the point of these epaulettes, it's important that you're pivoting at the right point, so that you're keeping that shape. I just keep looking at that one because I'm like, this really does look like quite a big seam allowance, but it is the seam allowance. So just, yeah, make sure that when you're pivoting at the right point. And if you want to, you could mark that on already. So you could mark a pivot point on those bits like that. So that you're making sure that it's level, because obviously you want when you turn it through, we're going to trim these seam allowances, but when you turn it through, you want the shape to be even. And because it's slightly, you know, it is for small pieces, it's quite a big seam allowance, so therefore it's harder to judge the point that you need to pivot. You see, the biggest thing is when you pivot, you should then be lined up with the 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, 5/8 of an inch, on the other side. And if you're not, then you can do another stitch further or go back if you've gone too far. It's the same here on this pocket flap, the pointed pocket flap. You need to make sure that you're getting your pivot point exactly at the point of where the shaping is like this. So again, if you want to, you could mark that with a pen, so you really are being accurate there. Okay, we've done an epaulette, we've done a, what are we doing for time? We're okay. I'm just thinking, is it worth me still doing these? But yeah, let me just keep going with these, because that will then mean I can do quite a bit of top stitching with you. Also means you can have a bit of chat. You know, I like a little bit of chat. We have got this Thursday a big photo shoot, another photo shoot. We usually have about a photo shoot once a month, we've got taken on a studio space for this one, because things are opened up a bit more now, and we have got some of our lovely models to come back, which will be really nice to have them back. And we are going to be photographing some more patterns that are going into extended sizing that won't be released for a bit, but they're coming. And we're photographing our newest pattern for April, which will be very different from what's come obviously from a jacket. We really should try to mix it up so that, you know, it's not always, there's a lot of thought that goes into the sort of variation, so it's not all tops or it's not all dresses. Or I think Sew Over It has a name for dress patterns, because at the beginning we just did a lot of dress patterns, but now we really try and vary it. So anyway, we'll be doing that, and just working through some other samples. We're having a bit of a refresh of our samples and making some new ones. So yeah, that's Thursday's fun. Okay, I'm now on the rectangular pocket, which is nice and easy. So again, just making sure you're pivoting exactly at 5/8 of an inch, 1.5 centimetres. Okay, last one, guys. And then we can do our top stitching. I'm doing it again. I've got my pin dish over there. Why is that over there? Oh, strange. Okay, I'm going to move that out of the way because we do need to do some ironing. Okay. So we're going to trim the seam allowances down to half their width, and I'm going to just cut a little bit of a diagonal at the corner of these. So that's just the rectangular one. And on the epaulette one, I'm going to trim it down to half its width. And then I'm going to go back in and get rid of that point, some of the excess on that point. Because if you try and turn it through like that, you're going to end up with far too much bulk at the point of the epaulettes. Just take that off. And this one, again, this one's a bit easier. I probably don't need to take anything off on these ones because it's not such a cute point. Just trim that down. Just do the same on their pairs. Okay. Top there. There we go. So, I'll take this. And now we're going to press these. So we're going to turn them through, teasing the corners out. And then we're going to top stitch. So if you're teasing the corners out, my little trick is always to take your pin, and just use that, put that into the seam and pull out. I am making a size 10 Fiona. I generally, in Sew Over It patterns, I'm around a size 10 moment. Definitely in jackets, because then, you know, I like to have layers on. Okay, and then I'm going to push, so let's tease this one out as well. Just be careful if you are using a twill, because you can sometimes be a little bit too zealous on this technique and you can pull a strand out. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. little epaulette. He's going to be a bit harder, isn't he? He's a little bit more fiddly to turn through. So funny, when this fabric arrived, I was like, oh, it's a little bit yellow. It's a little bit too yellow, I think, for me. But actually, now I think maybe the light in the office is different, so it looked a different colour. But now I'm really quite excited about having a yellow jacket. Mustard jacket. Coming out of lockdown in my mustard jacket. I have to say, I enjoyed a moment in the middle of lockdown when it was very much, you know, obviously going for a walk with a friend, and it was all about wearing a nice coat. It was around Christmas, I think, when I had sort of days off around Christmas and was catching up with friends by going for a walk. I was enjoying my coat collection, which I have to say has not really been given the bit of daylight in this lockdown in this year, because I feel like usually I'll mix up my coats quite a lot with my outfits, but definitely not. There's a few coats that have not made it out of the wardrobe this winter. Excuse me! Excuse me. Anyone else find that some fabrics make them sneeze? I don't know if it's like the particles that come off or if it's sometimes the fabrics and the way that they're dressed or something, but yeah. Just trim those threads off. Thanks, guys. Turning throughy, it's coming. Oof. There we go. Teasing that out. Teasing this out. Okay, right, we've turned them all through, guys. Got a little pile of little things now. We can now press them. So we want to press them, rolling those seams right so they are on the edge. So it is a sort of rolling motion. And you want to just try and focus on just pressing the edge that you are working on, because you don't want to accidentally press too much, and then, you know, if you're pressing kind of, you've not prepped it, you'll press it in the wrong position. So just, I'm really just getting the edge of the iron on the edge that I'm working on. So that's one. It also gives the opportunity just to have a look at your corners and if they need anything tweaking. But yeah, rolling it like this sort of motion on the base of the ironing board helps you roll it so that the seam really gets pushed out to the edge. So that's what you want, the seam right out on the edge. And this one I can see needs a bit more teasing. And it's worth spending the time getting this right, guys, because this will make the difference between, you know, a jacket that looks really professionally sewn and, you know, really good top stitching and things. So take the time and enjoy this bit. I always feel like ironing is just as much an art as the actual act of sewing. It's really, really important. So if you can't iron your sewing well, I think, and that's sometimes, I think, you know, with beginners, it's one of the hardest things, is kind of realising, and I remember this when I used to teach intuitive dressmaking, you know, some people were really, really good at the sewing, but they hated the ironing bit, and so would rush through that bit, and then maybe their finished thing didn't look as good as they would have hoped it to, and it was all in just giving it that final press, you know, pressing the hem properly, or the waistband. We always used to do full circle skirts because you didn't have to worry about fit. I always think that's a really good first pattern, although you've got to tend with a very big hem, but you basically, all you have to do is get the waistband to be the right size, and then it just hangs. Okay, so we're nearly there, guys. Just getting this little one out. Right. Two more, oops. Two more to go, sorry guys. It's the only moment when you enjoy ironing. Yeah, I agree, Helen. I think like ironing is when you've got such a big pile of ironing, it's like, oh, so disheartening. If you're just doing little bits and you can see your garment kind of come to life when you're ironing it, so it's quite a satisfying stage. There we go. Oh. So, top stitching time. Okay, so I have got these needles, jean needles, and I'm going to put a size 16 on because that has a nice big eye. And this fabric is not that heavy that it really needs a size 16 needle for the weight of it. Although obviously once we start putting much, you know, sewing through layers, then it's gonna, you know, be benefit having a bigger needle. But it still would cope with a 14, but it's just gonna have, now I'm like slightly worried that this is not gonna go in my machine. Why are you not going in? It's just, there we go. It's just really good having a really big needle in the top for the big eye, so that when I get my top stitching thread on. So again, if you don't have top stitching thread, it's not the end of the world. You don't have to use top stitching thread. Obviously it will look better. And this is top stitching thread. Obviously it's going to be hard for you guys to get an idea, but it's that much thicker. So if I hold, can you kind of see? That's the regular and that's the top stitching. But you would struggle to get that through a regular size needle. Now what we're going to do, guys, we're going to definitely practice on a scrap. I think I've put my scraps over there before we start on our little pieces, because we don't want to, I'm going to check that the machine can cope with this top stitching thread. So I'll just get my scrap. Right, so stitch length 3. We've got, as you can see, I haven't changed anything underneath. We're just using the regular thread underneath. Oh, and I have to say it's coming out beautifully. I'm very pleased with the match as well. Can you see? Very exciting. Okay. Now let's start with the easiest pieces. So start with the pocket flaps. What we're going to do is we're going to edge stitch 6mm from there. So these one, I don't know if you can see the 6 mils, about that distance. So these will get top stitched again once they're stitched on, but we need to do all the kind of other bits first. So we're going to go round the sides basically that we've just stitched on all of them, and then when you stitch the pocket flaps on, you'll do an extra top stitching along the top. Okay, so I'm going to put my edge stitch foot on. It might be more useful to have it on. It might not. We'll find out. 'Cause it might be. Yeah. Do you know what, guys? I don't think this foot's going to allow me to stitch as wide as I want. It's when I line up with my bit here, it's going to want to stitch like 2-3 millimeters. So no to the edge stitching foot. Shame. Challenge time. We will just go nice and slow and steady. Okay. So the key thing is to make sure you've got a really good lined up point. So I'm going to move my needle to make it easier. So what I'm going to use is the edge of my, I couldn't move the needle over. Basically, you can see in my edge stitch foot there, there's only about, if you see there's got that middle bit in the middle, there's only room for a few mils. Definitely not 6 mils gap there. Okay. So I'm going to move the needle over just so I get that perfect 6 millimeter position without having a funny guide point to have to navigate. That looks about right. Do you know what though? I'm going to be perfectionist. Oh, yours is wider. So annoying. Some people's might be, yeah. Mine will not cope. Never mind. That is 6 millimeters though. Perfect. Okay. And don't breathe. Are you serious? Are you serious? You will. Oh no, phew. So I thought it was going to stitch. I was like, we've already tested you and you said you were fine with this thread. Do not play up when it's counting now. That's going really well. That's looking nice. So again, we need to be super precise when we're pivoting here, that we're going to pivot at the same distance. Oh, it's about half a stitch. I'm going to judge that. So it's basically about, I could have done, if I do a whole nother stitch, it will then be too close. But at where it is now, it's slightly not quite far enough. So what I'm going to do is just carry on, and I'm just going to allow this bottom just to be about, oh gosh, it's not even a millimetre, just a very tiny amount. It will be just slightly wider distance top stitching sitting at. Don't forget to use the hand wheel guide. We're using stitch length 3, Trudy. I already sort of said that you could use stitch length 3 throughout the whole of the project, because it's a thick fabric. You could get away with stitch length 3. I sometimes like to do that anyway because I like the distance, certainly with top stitching, but I like how that looks. Oh, yes, very good, very satisfying. Okay, so we just keep going, and I think you'll get into a little roll with this, guys. So I have to say, I'm kind of, you'll just find that you'll really get into it. It doesn't, top stitching thread doesn't really like a reverse stitch, but you still need to do that. I mean, I guess technically at the top you could just knot your threads together. Ideally you want to. If your machine can cope with it, do reverse, but I can hear it on mine, it doesn't really like it, but it's still doing it. But if it really doesn't like it, then don't worry, you can always knot your threads together, and remember that that seam will get stitched into another seam. So and because it's not a seam that's taking strain, it's a decorative seam, so it's not so important that it's super strong. Oh, it's the same again. No, this time I'm going to go, guys. I'm going to do another stitch. It just needs one more stitch. Yes, that's perfect. Great. Filling up my little pile of top stitching here, guys. So I think, hopefully for anyone watching this who's never top stitched before, you'll see that there's nothing particularly scary about it. The key is keeping it straight, making sure you've got the right stitch length and pivoting at the right points. So it's essentially just straight stitching. And if you have got an edge stitch foot that will allow you to use it and stitch at the width you need, then by all means use that, because that will really keep you super, super parallel to your edge of your fabric, whatever you're sewing. No, one more stitch still. So I think what we're going to do tomorrow, guys, oh, I forgot to reverse on that one, oops. What I think we'll do tomorrow, guys, is is it, Lorianne? It's very satisfying top stitching, isn't it? I kind of feel like, yeah, it's sort of, it just looks so good. And I think for me, who, as you guys know, I'm quite a fast sewer, I quite like the slowing down and enjoying it a bit more, which is what you have to do. Making a bit of a clunky noise. So yeah, what I thought tomorrow we could do is the positioning. So starting to put all of these things onto the jacket. So make sure you've marked your pointers, which I haven't yet, but mark those things on the pattern. I guess we'll just be doing the front. We're not going to get to the epaulets, so we'll sort of put the patch pocket on and the pocket flap, or the pocket flaps plural, and we'll do that bit together. Yeah? Just get that one out a bit. Not super happy, this little epaulet. He wants to be pulled out a little bit more. And I believe on Stitch School, the videos have gone up, Rosie, have they, for this project? Or did they go up? I think they went up on Saturday. On how to do all the hardware. Let's see what Rosie says on that. I'm pretty sure it did. Oh, it usually goes up on the Saturday after. If not, it will be this Saturday. Shows you. I just took. Yes, they did. Oh, wonderful. How to apply, exactly. So I call it the hardware. So how to apply the Presswords and eyelets. So if you want to know how to do that, guys, those of you that have signed up and are members of Stitch School will have that video on there. Anybody, doesn't matter what your membership is, you'll all be able to access those videos. And we're now trying with every release to do a special bit on Stitch School specially for that. Right, guys. Kind of got to a good point where I'm going to stop. I could obviously sew a bit more of the other one, but we're pretty much, I've got all my bits here ready. So for tomorrow, let me just quickly have a look at the instructions. And I thought earlier when I was sort of deciding on how to break it up, we could do the collar and the waist channel, but I think it'd be nice to do the pocket positioning. So let's do that first. I don't think we need to, it doesn't matter if we don't do the waist channel. It's just prepping it, isn't it? Yeah, so let's just attach, we'll do the pocket attachment and the pocket flap attachment. So make sure if you're following along that you've got your pockets marked up on the front pieces, and then we can stitch those on. So we'll be stitching them on, and then we'll also be top stitching as well. Yay. And then obviously, yeah, you could move on to your, after that you would then just move on to sewing up the jacket and stuff. Right, but that's what we'll aim for tomorrow, guys. So we'll leave it there for today. And tomorrow I'll be back at 1 o'clock and we will see how far we get. So hopefully we'll be able to definitely put those things on, and we might get a bit of the collar done as well. We'll find out. But thank you for joining me and Rosie, and thank you for chatting, and as you always do, and thanks to Rosie for answering your questions and taking time out of a busy day when she's filming Stitch School. I keep forgetting to say like and subscribe, but like and subscribe, guys. I'm hopeless, a hopeless YouTuber when I always forget to do that. And hope you all have a nice rest of your day, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.